All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to this exclusive edition of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And today we have a special show for you guys, as we do have a special guest joining us to talk about the release of A Man on Fire, which is set to release on April 30th, only on Netflix. So if you give me a moment, I'll bring it up now. Starring Yahya Abdul Mateen II in the lead role of Creasy, alongside Billy Bulett, Alice Braga, Scoot McNairy, Bobby Conneville, and Paul Ben Victor. The series follows a wounded former mercenary on a quest to get revenge for the loss of his only companion, while defending the daughter of his dead colleague from the forces that tore her family apart. And with that, as you can see here in the background, I want to introduce today's guest. Born and raised in Los Angeles, today's guest has brought his talents as a composer across a variety of mediums, be it gaming, film and TV, or streaming. Those said projects include the likes of Assassin's Creed, Wrath of the Druids, The Ice Road, as well as Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, of course, just to name a few. However, today we will, of course, be talking about his work on Netflix, Man of Fire. It is my pleasure to welcome Max Aruj. Let me bring him on now. Max,
Hey,
hello.
Brandon. Brandon, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, first off, just to get started, thanks for, hopping on board and take me back to those early years of having that interest in jazz and in that style of music. I understand that in terms of the inspiration that you had, stems back to Oscar Peterson, from what I understand. So can you talk a bit about that inspiration and how it brought you to where you are today?
Sure. I think starting by reading music, and in particular playing Chopin and just kind of looking through the sheet music and playing, and then once you start doing jazz, then you think, wait a minute, I can start doing my own thing here. So it's just having that balance of following the music, but then improvising. And those two going hand in hand gives you the confidence and the ability to start writing your own music. And Oscar Peterson, I was actually listening to him yesterday. He did this album with a clarinetist that's so beautiful. So I'm always listening to him for inspiration and just to hear his genius.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And just to get the ball rolling and talking about A Man on Fire, um, obviously, when we're thinking of A Man on Fire, we may think of the original film with Denzel Washington and the incredible ensemble and cast that we had there, and it has its place. Can you talk to me about coming on board this project and knowing what came before and trying to set your own path from what people may recognize from before?
Sure. When I heard about the project that there was even a possibility or an opening, I was really excited because I love the movie. So I had an interview with the team and we talked and it was clear that they wanted to do their own fresh take on it. And of course, the IP and the story would be expanded upon, but they
Yes.
were really excited for a fresh perspective musically as well. So it was really great to hear that they wanted me to bring my thoughts and my vision. So I kind of told them what I would be interested in doing, and I asked some questions, but they were really excited for me to kind of have a go at it and not worry about so much as what came before.
Excellent, excellent. And to dive deeper into that, you've shared in other conversations, other interviews that you've had of your intention of being able to provide a theme for the hero, right, or a theme for an antagonist, and even in this case, with something as bombastic as this, of having a theme for the show in and of itself. So, talk to me about that, of trying to find a voice musically in those instances, especially when we're talking about a character who for all intents and purposes, if we're thinking of their makeup internally, can in under the right circumstances be thought of as a villain, but because of where they're directing, their ire to, they under that lens would be, they're re they're positioned as a hero.
Sure. Well, in terms of Creasy's theme, the album starts with the main titles, which you'll hear in the show, of course,
Sure.
kind of that really bold. We're calling it or we called it the investigation motif because
Yeah.
that's what the first thing I thought of when I wrote it. So that it has this bold guitar, it's edgy. Because really, Creasy, once you wake him up, he's ready to do some serious work. So
Right.
that was step one. And then step two is exploring his more intimate side and the quieter side, and when he kind of goes within and you can see he's dealing with his demons.
Yeah.
And track 23, which is called Man on Fire, explores this more internal aspect and kind of what's behind the man, what's driving him. And so whenever we see him in an emotional state, this theme is played, and it can even take us into a bigger scene. It's kind of versatile in that way. So we're really happy that we were able to make that work so well in different scenes.
Awesome, awesome. And just as you mentioned, what is happening, the inferno that is happening internally ends up uh, being realized externally in Creasy's action. So one thing that I like about action films, and just how they're executed just in general across any medium, is when you, just as you said, there is that emotional undertone of you being able to follow and to be able to vicariously understand what's happening with that character. And when it's not effectively done, it can feel very empty. I feel like the best action films allow you to kind of emotionally follow that journey of the character. So can you talk about that? Because from what I understand, there are components of some Western sensibilities as well as some regional ones as well of being able to realize what's happening externally. In
That's right. Yeah, because if we don't have a good character arc, then we're just kind of lost doing random action scenes. And the
Exactly,
great part
yeah,
about this show is that it keeps the audience so focused, so you can follow him and his character as a person and watch him go from someone who it kind of has PTSD and he's learning how to deal with that. And then by the end of the show, I think people are going to feel really um, satisfied and validated by what this man is able to do and turn around. And the original film takes place in Mexico. And so this series doesn't go too far away. So it's in Brazil. So you're absolutely right. We did use regional colors and instruments and musicians so that when he's down there going through the city, we're there with him. We feel and hear the sounds of the favelas. We hear the gritty guitars. We hear the percussion that sounds fresh and vibrant. And we hired some amazing musicians who helped make the whole score come to life.
excellent, excellent. And in bringing all of this together, I understand that it took what, 6 months in order to realize all of this. So, and I feel a lot of people don't really understand or appreciate how nuanced and how deeply a composer can dive into their score and how many revisions there could be. So could you share with me how deep did it go in terms of draft one or revision three or revision 30 or revision 50, like perhaps how deep it got with some of the different scores that you had?
Sure. This project was an outlier in that the process was very smooth. And I think
Okay.
that had to do with the fact that by the time I started, picture was locked. So, in other words, on most films, you might have to score the film and then
As
they
its own.
re-edit the movie, and then you have to do what we call conforms, where you have to re-edit every single piece of music in the show. So one of the strengths of starting on this, so 6 months was a pretty fast pace, not too fast, but I would say healthy. But by the time I started an episode, I didn't have to worry about, oh, they're going to re-edit this scene, they're going to do this. So I would often present each episode, and then the whole team, the showrunner, would watch it, and then they would all send me notes all in one batch together. It was super organized. And then Netflix and I would talk, and we'd go through them, and I would address them all in one go, and then we would resubmit the entire episode. And then more often than not, we would tackle most of the notes very quickly. The showrunner, Kyle Killen, was super articulate, and when something was wrong, he was able to say exactly what it was. He'd say, why don't we try something like this? It was all, every pipeline was so open, and the communication was clear, so that it felt like we were finishing the episode together. I never felt like, oh, I'm just getting all these notes and, is it working? Are they listening? Am I listening? It was just a great vibe from the beginning to the end.
Got it, got it. And as you mentioned, there are instances where that is the case, where you may not be working on a project when it's already been picture locked, as you said, or maybe in dailies, or you may be in pre-production. So in instances of that, would you say that that is a preference? If you have the preference to be able to do that, to have it once it's already picture locked, or in the other instance? Because I could imagine even by having it earlier, you're able to go along for that journey and actually have early notes or early indications
Yes.
of where characters are going when you have that luxury.
That's a great question, because it just depends. Sometimes being on too early can be tough, because you have to go through the motions of these early cuts as the whole team is figuring out what is the tempo of the scene, what
Yeah,
is the tempo of the movie. So it can go either way. And that's what the great thing about being a film composer is, that every time you do it, there's a fresh perspective. There's a new challenge. There's something new to learn. But yeah, sometimes getting on really early, and let's say you score a scene in a very fresh and unusual way 9 months before you're done, and everyone is like, whoa, what was that? We got to do more of that. But then sometimes when you come in a little bit later in the process, like I did on Man on Fire, the good thing is that the team is focused. They've already tried lots of things in the temping process. They've worked with a music editor. And so they're really so much more confident in the vision where the show needs to go. So it really can go either way. But on this one, it was fantastic, the workflow.
gotcha. Awesome, man. So, with that, in talking about this film, as I said, I really do appreciate it. Are you able to share, what you have next outside of Man on Fire? Because as I mentioned at the top, you're working across a whole bunch of mediums. So,
I appreciate it, Brandon. I'm working on a video game right now, which is a very specific style, and it's very difficult.
and I'm
You
guessing it's
hear
hush
it.
hush right now.
That's right, and you hear the music and you think, oh, that must be easy, but I'm doing it now, and it really isn't. And I love that, because I love a good challenge. And I'm also doing a thriller right now that has some gospel singers, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, cool.
And I've seen he sent us a first edit, and we've kind of scored, I'd say roughly half over half, but there's going to be iterations to come as he edits and figures out the tempo of the film. And there's going to be songs in this one. So working around the songs is a whole different dynamic as well.
All right, excellent. Well, Max, thank you so much for hopping on and stealing some time with us to talk about Man on Fire. As I mentioned, for those of you out there, it comes out on April 30th on Netflix. And then also, before I let you go, Max, can you tell folks where they can find you?
I'm on all the streaming platforms and Instagram, just Max Aruj, Maxaruj. So, oh, and I'll be posting some behind the scenes making of music videos starting on April 30th. So,
Sweet.
if anyone is interested to learn more about what went behind it and even more detail and some of the great musicians that are involved, that's the place to go.
Excellent, excellent. And with that, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X and then Brandon Choi underscore ENT on Instagram. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there and see you guys soon.
Brandon,
Bye
thank
now.
you. Bye bye.
Yeah.